You're never going to think of that moment the same way again. Never. I get like a cease and desist from Phantom Management. They're like, please remove this part of your podcast.
They might. They very well might.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another week of Stage Door Medium. I'm your host, Jimmy. Thank you for joining us today. If you're new to the podcast, I just always like to, just a quick synopsis. Essentially, I sit down with Broadway artists that I've done readings for, and then we talk about the parallels between our work. So boom, short and sweet. So welcome. Somebody had given me the feedback. They're like, we really want to learn more about the mediumship aspect or specific questions. So I'm now fielding questions first just about mediumship, and then we'll blend it. So the question that I got was a really good one. It was about skeptics. And are skeptics hard to read? Because depending on what you search, it's a great question. There's so many different answers out there too. Sometimes people will say yes, and that I was just watching this one British one, and she was like, I'll never read a skeptic because a skeptic will truly put a wall up in front of themselves and they'll shut the reading down. It's not true. Truthfully, the only thing that will shut down a reading with a skeptic is me, is the medium, because I will do it to myself. So imagine, because what will happen is if we're sitting in front of somebody and I'm like, I have a father energy here, and they're like, I have somebody that would have died from the chest, but this feels like the father energy, and they're doing this. I think naturally as humans, we crave validation in whatever we do. So if we have somebody just doing this, it starts to mess with us. So the skeptic's fine and dandy. It's me. I start putting the wall up around myself because I think, I must not be doing a good job, or he's not connecting. And, just yesterday, I read somebody that was like a self-professed skeptic, and it was, obviously, I can't discuss it, but it was one of the most beautiful readings that I've ever had the privilege to do. And to me, skepticism, we sometimes equate with being rude. And I always say, like, it's not the same. If you're going to come in rude, I will shut the reading down immediately. I'll say, look, we can end this. You want to give your time to somebody else that, I would be happy to read somebody who's going to be kind and respectful. Skepticism, come in a skeptic. I think healthy skepticism in anything is good. But it's the same thing if you had like our next guest. If I were to come in for some odd reason, go, I'm skeptical of her talent, and she's belting out these E6s in front of me, and you're like this, the skeptic's fine. It doesn't impact their performance or their viewing of the show. It starts to get into the performer's head. So you really have to that's why I talk about mediums having to thicken their skin sometimes and just go, it's going to be great. Just, be polite and be kind to your medium. So that's that. So we have such a great guest today, and I can't wait to fill you in on this cool story about how we almost met but didn't, and we were able to reconnect, and now we're here today. So, gosh, her credits are just crazy. So she was in the Broadway production of La Boheme, The Secret Garden, The Secret Garden with the late, great Rebecca Luker, The Sound of Music, Kinky Boots, Phantom, and a couple different versions. The Toronto version, which I think I saw, with her in it. The New York Philharmonic production of Sweeney Todd. Just so many. Just the epitome of kindness as well. So please help me in welcoming the incredibly talented Patricia Phillips to our show today. Hi, Patricia.
Thanks. Hi, Jimmy. That's so kind of you. Thank you.
You're welcome. How are you? How have you been doing?
I am good. It's been a hectic year for us all, but home stretch for me in terms of teaching, and my son is about to graduate from college on Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
So
wow.
I am feeling pretty happy right now. I'm really happy.
Are they doing a digital graduation, or are they able to be in person now?
Well, I can't be there. They're doing a graduation. And I have to say this, I'm really proud. He's graduating from my alma mater, which is Carnegie Mellon,
Oh my
and
gosh.
he's actually getting his degree in international relations and politics, so not in the arts. And what Carnegie Mellon is doing is they're letting the kids, just the students, be in the stadium, socially distant, and I guess with masks on, so no parents are allowed to
Sure.
be there. So I'm not even exactly sure how he's actually going to get his diploma, but that's the details of it all. So
That's so. Oh, congratulations! It's David, right?
that's
David.
right.
Congratulations
Wow.
to David. Oh, yay! See
Thank
that
you.
I remember certain things from the reading, the rest I don't. So, um, yeah, for our students right now, they're releasing like with Cuomo like daily releasing like new guidance and stuff. I feel bad because they keep kind of they're trying to expand it now to be more flexible for parents that really want to see their students graduate, from high school.
Yeah.
And because if you don't
Yeah.
know, if you're listening in, I full time, I'm a teacher. I love what I do, but I also love what I do as a medium. So we spoke earlier before we started filming. You're from Colorado. You went to Carnegie Mellon. How how did you get the bug? Like was like because I think of you now with musical theater, but was it always that way? Was this for classical? Like how did you? Oh, tell me.
Yeah, there's a very, very cute story. Then it changed my life, absolutely. I was raised by a Roman Catholic Italian mom, and I was put into private Catholic school. And for all the years I was there, we were always taught by nuns. But in my eighth grade year, we got a new music teacher who was not a nun, and she played the piano, and she wore false eyelashes, and she smoked on her breaks, and she decided she was going to put on a musical. And she literally had every kid in the school, like, she brought them over to stand next to her, she taught them a line or two, and we sang. And the next day it was announced I was going to play Nancy in Oliver in the 8th grade.
As in the
And that's all you need to know about me, Jimmy. So,
the rest is
but with
history.
that, I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh. So then, well, it's also interesting that you bring up eighth grade. Eighth grade was magic for me too because that's when I first discovered. Excuse me. I had perfect pitch because we had a music teacher, which I didn't know until later on as like a rarity, which is also interesting because I growing up I had and still kind of have a hearing problem. So anyway, long story short, Phantom, it's so neat to be speaking with you today, talk about Full Circle. I remember that cassette, that black cassette, the two cassettes that I wore out. And I remember when I started trying to learn how to play the sheet music and whatnot, before I even had the sheet music, I would memorize. I was like, oh, the overture, the first note is B flat. And then when they find Piangi's body, it's A. And then the same thing for when the body drops, but then the entr'acte is E. So as bizarre as that sounds, I taught myself, I think through memorization, it reinforced what I had. So I had this music teacher, eighth grade, who was asking us, does anyone know what these notes are? And like, none of them did. And I'm like B flat. I'm like, oh, this is A because I was able to go to that cassette in my brain. And she pulled me aside and she's like, can I test some notes? And she played a C and I'm like, hold on, this is the end of Act One when the chandelier is about to come down. So I was like, C. And she was like, you really have this, she was so wonderful, like yours with she's I think fostered something that I didn't know was there. So for you, high school, then did you go on from there? You got the bug and you performed throughout high school?
I did. Interestingly enough, so the role of Nancy is a very belty, low chest voiced role. The next year, she was teaching at the high school where I went, same teacher, and she put me in the role of Mother Abbess in The Sound
Sound
of
of
Music.
Music.
And I was like, I don't sing high. And she's like, oh, yes, you do. And so from there, then my parents got divorced, and I went then to the public high school, which the people that went to my public high school are Sierra Bogus. So like the theater is now named after, not after me, it's a Sierra Bogus Theater. Anyway, hi Sierra. Um, but we had this incredible drama teacher who ran the theater program. That was George Washington High School in Denver, Colorado. Whoop, whoop. And she did 4 productions a year. So we did a musical and a play in the fall, and a musical
Oh
and a
my God.
play in the spring. Like,
God bless that
full
woman.
on.
Like that's crazy. Like I do one with
Yeah.
my students and I'm like ready to drop dead by the end of it. It's so
Yeah.
and it's funny. I remember as a student it was a lot for as a student, but then to be on the other side where doing like we don't have a person building the sets. It was like my husband and I building the sets and doing the direction and sometimes the choreography if it was easier and accessible to me. Like it's hard. So this woman sounds like a saint. Oh my gosh.
Well, but she had everybody on board. There was a man on the faculty who did the sets, and then the woman who ran the choir taught the music,
Yep.
and then the man who directed the band orchestra, he conducted the orchestra. So she had a full on team. Everybody was, down with doing it. And I don't know what that meant for them in terms of compensation. I don't know if they got extra or if that was just part of their package.
Yeah.
But it was a very, comprehensive program. And then Denver also did this program where they would do something called summer theater, and we only had, like, at that point I think 10 or 11 public high schools, and we would all get together and do one show in the summer. And like I did Brigadoon, of course, and of course then I played Fiona and Brigadoon, and I played Sister Sarah and Guys and Dolls because
Yeah.
I had this high voice. But then I also played Rose and Bye Bye Birdie. But another really famous person I worked with in this production of Brigadoon was Don Cheadle, who is exceptionally
Oh, like
Yeah.
no big deal. Like
yeah, but his career, my career, whatever. And so we had this really healthy and vibrant and this amazing theatrical
wow.
program going on in Denver. But I knew that I enjoyed singing, and I am so old that when I was applying for colleges, it was literally a piece of paper that you filled out and did some check marks. I'm auditioning. I want to do this.
Yeah.
And you literally wrote it. You had a couple lines like, I love music, whatever you wrote. And literally put a stamp on it and mailed it.
Nailed it.
And so I auditioned for the music program at Carnegie Mellon because I was like, I like singing the best.
Yeah. So did you study opera then and classical, or was it just musical theater? Like, were they different programs? I'm assuming. I'm sorry, I don't know as much about that as I should.
Oh, well, everybody I think does it a little differently, but Carnegie Mellon definitely has a school of music and a school of drama. And I was in the school of music, and I was studying classical
Okay.
voice. And so that's what I did, and got my equity card at Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera a few years after I had graduated.
And if you're listening at home and you're more into the mediumship aspect, and so many times if you've heard the term equity dropped and you're like, what the frig is that? Equity is the union. Is the union that any a person that you would see on Broadway would belong to. And for mediums, it's interesting. There's sometimes you'll see folks that will be like registered medium. I'm just gonna tell you straight up, like it doesn't, like when you see people at Lilydale, I've spoken about Lilydale where you can train, it's like registered medium. I'm like, I don't mean this really, it doesn't really mean anything. Like, it's not like you could have the best medium in the world and they're probably not registered. For Lilydale, you have to basically do a reading in front of like the council and to prove your validity and things like that. But once you're registered, I mean, outside of Lilydale, no offense to them, it doesn't mean anything. Unlike equity. If you're listening at home, I have not had the privilege yet of seeing Patricia, who's also, we'll talk about this in a little bit, first person of color to play Carlotta in Phantom. But I'm going to tell you a fun story. This is just how magical and kind Patricia is. So I was 19 working at Calvin Klein, and I remember I was going to New York with the college. The theater program had done like a costume. It was specifically a costume tour of New York. So we went backstage at Wicked, and we went to downtown where they made all the Victoria's Secret wings. I forgot the name of the studio. Tim Gunn had an office there. So anyway, I was going to see Phantom, and I was like, I wonder if they ever do backstage tours. Me, this like ballsy 19-year-old, not even. I'm like, I see the cast list, and I'm like, I'm gonna write her a letter, and I'm like, I wonder if she'll do it. And now, mind you, also at the time your phone number was there, and I didn't realize that was for representation, like to call for like about work. But I was like, no, don't call, just write a letter. Good thing could you have imagined? I'm like, hello, you don't know me, but I'm calling for a backstage tour. So anyway, I forget about this. Call me back, 716. So I'm at Calvin Klein working. Having just a real shitty day because Calvin Klein is like Mean Girls, and like it's color, like certain outfits, certain days of the week. So like whatever day I was there, you were supposed to wear all black, and I was wearing white and black, and that must have been for Wednesdays, not Fridays. And like they were like, well, you look like a waiter today. I'm like, well, clearly on Friday or Wednesdays, and we all look like waiters when we're wearing this. So anyway, I'm so frustrated. My phone rings, and I'm not able to answer it because they were like militant at this store. Check the voicemail. It's Patricia Phillips going like, hi, Jimmy, this is Patricia Phillips from Phantom on Broadway. I got your note. Yes, I would love to give you a tour. Give me a call back. We'll set it up. Like, I remember checking the voicemail in the break room and like crying. Like someone's kindness that I had not anticipated. Like, yes, I wrote the letter, but I don't think I had anticipated hearing back. And then the night I was supposed to see you in it, you were so gracious again. You called me. You're like, hi, I had to call out, but the late, great Chris Coop, is on as Carlotta tonight. And so then flash forward, you started following the social media, and then we reconnected for a reading. And I'm like, funny story. I'm like, we actually were supposed to meet like 10 plus years ago. So long story short, that's how we were supposed to meet. This is how we've now met. And I'm so grateful. So,
yeah. Well, and it's thanks to your reading with Jason, because Jason Forbach is a dear friend. We've actually we did another performance. We did South Pacific outside of Phantom. So that was really fun. We did that with the Harrisburg Symphony.
Yes, I saw him posting about that. How did Phantom come about for you?
Well, I was in the original cast of The Secret Garden. I was the original Aya, and so I was doing that show. And I had a friend who had also gone to Carnegie Mellon who was in Phantom at the time, Gary Lindemann.
Okay.
And Gary kept saying to me, you are perfect for Carlotta. You got to be Carlotta. And I have to be honest with you, I had no idea what that meant. Who is Carlotta? But it kept coming to me from all these different places. You got to sing Carlotta. You've got to do Carlotta. And so I just sort of put two and two together, and I did not have representation. That's a whole other Jimmy mediumship
episode part
show.
2.
Me and representation. And so I decided I would go to a call for a show that I knew I wasn't right for, but it was the casting office that was also casting Phantom at the time. And I was singing, everything I did in Secret Garden was very, very low. And I was like, they've got to hear me sing some high notes. And so that's what I did. I went into an audition it was the revival of Guys and Dolls with Nathan
Lane and Megan Mullally.
And Faith Prince. Yeah. And so I just went in Megan. And I sang, and they were like, we thought you were an alto. And I was like, I know. And so very, very long story short, they're like, how high do you sing? And I was like, high. Yeah. And I got a call. I'm literally like within a couple of months to audition for the Canadian National Tour. And I booked Carlotta. And that was in 1992.
You've got to be acutely aware going into this show that you are the first person of color to play the role. So what does it feel like then, and even now, to know that you were kind of trailblazing for Phantom?
Well, I have to be honest with you. There is this strange element of being a light-skinned Black person that, and again, this is 1992. We weren't talking about this stuff the way that we're talking about it now.
Sure.
And so I was cast in things as sort of this ethnic Italian person. So there was really no chatter about me being black. Now, when people and I were talking, I was very, very frank about, that I was part African American. It's only recently, like in the last, I would say 5 years, that you can get those DNA tests to see how much you are. But I mean, I grew up, again, I was born in 1963. I have a birth certificate that says father Negro, mother white. And so I was like, I'm half black and I'm half white. And you talk to the hairdressers and they're like, yes, your hair is right down the middle.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't, I mean, I just got the role because I could do it well. And now it's a much bigger deal. Now it's like, now we realize that I was a trailblazer, and and then in Kinky Boots as well. So it's with all of that said, I am so proud, and I know that I'm being lifted up by, you hear this all the time, by the ancestors or whatever, and I'm a tough girl. Like I'm a Cancer. So I am a mush on the inside, but I'm tough on the outside. But I have a heart that is just mushy and loving and kind, and but I can stand up for myself.
Yeah.
I can, and I think it was important that there was somebody like me that was in this position that could say, wait a minute, that's not right, or that's not fair, or whatever. So yeah, it's a very strange thing. And there's that, I think it's like, is it called colorism? I'm not sure.
Colorism. My students were just presenting on this because one of my students is a person of color, and she was talking about the prejudice within the community at times of, well, you're dark, you are much darker than we are. And she was even talking about clothing companies, and she was like, well, I'm lighter, so like people wouldn't bat an eye if I shopped at J. Crew, but if my good friend who, it was fascinating and eye-opening, and I'm so grateful for that discussion that we had.
Yeah, so I benefited from colorism to a certain extent, although, as I say, there was never a moment that I wasn't candid about that.
Yeah.
And and the beat goes on. It's really relevant now. People are like, wow, that is so cool. Anyway, so lucky me.
How do you break down that character? Like, who is Carlotta to you?
Well, Jimmy, this goes to our reading. Can I dive in there for just a sec?
Yeah, you go for it.
So this is what you said to me, and it is true. You were like, Patricia, you almost like channel your mom.
Did say that.
And that's who I'm channeling when I'm playing Carlotta. So, I grew up with this mom who was born and raised in Italy, who had an Italian accent, and she was fire. And so I'm absolutely, hearing her in my mind's ear, and and standing up for herself. My parents had a very fraught relationship, very, very physically violent relationship. And she was much smaller than my dad, but she stood up for herself. And so I feel very like that's a gift that she gave me. And in the world of being a woman, it's a blessing and a curse, because if you're a guy and you're tough and you stand up for yourself, that's a man. He's got balls. But if you're a woman, what a bitch.
Yeah. I never thought of that.
That has been the path that I have gone down. When at the end of the day, I'm just standing up for myself and saying, no, I won't be treated that way. Don't treat me that way.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I never thought of that way with Carlotta really standing up for herself, because it is interesting. I mean, she doesn't. I thought of you earlier today too, because I was thinking about the pandemic and how while Phantom takes place in 1800s, what that would do. I'm thinking like, wow, what a time to with actors being out of work during the pandemic. My brain thought of Carlotta, and I'm like, look at in another way, she's like, I'm not going to be edged out. You know, like this is her job. This is her paycheck. And so there were so many things that just resonated with me in a way that I hadn't thought of before. You know, other circumstances, like the financial circumstances for Carlotta, the fact that she really hasn't done anything wrong other than being tough, you know. And I hated in the movie that I don't know if you remember, but in the movie they really made it like she was not a good vocalist. You know what I mean? Whenever she would hit those notes, you'd see the managers like cringe, but when these gorgeous notes are coming out. Can you give us any fun fact that you've learned about that people might not normally catch, or even like your biggest diehard fan might not know about Carlotta or about the show?
Oh my gosh. I don't, you know, the Phantom fans, they know way more.
They know everything. They know everything.
Yeah, so I don't think that I'm the person to. I know what my personal fun facts are and what my favorite things are, what are the hardest things for me. All the way back to when I was in the Secret Garden. When I was in the Secret Garden, I played the Aya. And the Aya wore a sari. And so I was literally wearing sort of like these pajama pants and like, you know, this tunic top. And then I had the sari wrapped around me. But all the other women in the show had these beautiful ball gowns that had, you know, sequins and little flowers, and they were, you know, just gorgeous. And I was like, I'm in my pajama pants on Broadway. And I was like, the next show I'm in, I'm gonna have some costumes.
Gowns.
And the next show I was in these that 50-pound costume that the show starts.
Yeah.
With. And with that said, I love those costumes. And yes, they are very heavy. But there's never been a moment where I'm like, oh, I'm always like, put some more beads on it, please.
Yeah.
I love it. And so that is always a thrill for me. Well, yes, we understand that it's a very hard sing. And every time she comes out there, she is screaming and yelling. So it is a really emotional, like, bulldozer getting through that show. And but speaking of costumes, Carlotta has, I think, 6 or 7 costumes. And one of the changes she does is on stage. So when she goes from the manager's one was mine, that one, and it blacks out
into Il Muto.
To Il Muto. And so whoever's playing, so literally the lights go out, you're in the dark, you're blind because there's been a spotlight in your eye, and you have to make your way far stage left and up and around the bed, where there is literally a team of 2 hair people and 2 wardrobe people who are getting you out of one costume and into a costume and wig.
A wig that's like 2 feet high.
Yeah. And so it's this entire team getting you ready. And I think it's less than 2 minutes. So there's that. And so it's just running and screaming and yelling and running and screaming and yelling and changing costumes. And so it's funny because when other people, like particularly the managers, love to make fun of Carlotta when she calls in sick. They're like, oh yeah, she's out of the show again. And I'm like, and you wear one costume in the entire show, so yeah. You have no idea how difficult that part is. And that's it, you know. Until you've actually done the role, it's very difficult to understand how taxing it is.
Well, it's interesting that there's a Christine alternate and there was no Carlotta alternate given. And I mean, can I ask how, like, if, and I know it's a strange question to ask, because I mean, I think of like that opening cadenza that she does. I mean, literally the first thing that's sung for the most part, other than Raul's couple notes, where you're like crouched on a floor as the backdrops are being lifted, and then you're hitting these E6s. And I'm sure, like, I know there's like options where if you're not feeling it that night, you can go down. But is it a pride thing? Like, did you always be like, I'm gonna try to gun for that note tonight, or were there moments where you're like, nope, be smart, pull back, and go to the C? You know what I mean, or things like that.
Yeah, I never did that. Now, and I have to say, Jimmy, and I've said this, and I say it to everyone. I am fortunate. My voice lives up there. That's just
Yeah.
that's just I can roll out of the bed in the morning and sing high notes. That's just how I'm made.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to option down.
I will put that clip up because thank sweet baby Jesus, the clip of you exists on YouTube. And I was like gripping my couch. I was like, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. And then right on what new surprises lie and whatever it is, when you hit that note,
You
I was like,
go too far.
I was like dripping. I was like, oh my God, this is so good.
Oh, you're very kind.
Well, we got a great question for you that I know I can piggyback off of. So, and that's a great segue because of Carlotta with her being, a little diva, the original Divas Live in like the 1800s. But somebody had asked if you could talk about, I'm just looking at my notes, ego. Does it belong in the theater? And is there such a thing as a healthy ego? Is ego necessary? So I thought it would be so great to get your feet, like your input on this.
Well, I guess it's a bit of a loaded question, isn't it? Is it allowed? Is it necessary? I think we can talk about ego in a couple of ways. I feel like the way it's presented in this question, it almost comes across as like, is it okay to be sort of full of yourself, or and I feel like the question is posing it as a sort of a negative thing. And so I would like to counter it and say, I don't think anybody who is in a Broadway show at some level is not aware of their talent or aware of their drive, their passion that has gotten them into a Broadway show. Now, what does one call that? Do we call that ego? Do we call that confidence? Do we call that cockiness? And to me, I feel like there's a very clear distinction between being confident and being cocky or conceited, which I feel like that's almost what the question is leaning towards. But there's no way you could go into a theater and get up in front of thousands of people if you didn't have some level of confidence about what you're doing. So if that's healthy ego, then I do think that it's necessary. Otherwise, and people succumb to having anxiety issues over that, and so that's why I feel like, to me, being confident or having it's confidence to me. It's and it's not, again, cockiness. It's like, I've been cast in this, and they've heard me sing the notes. I know I have these notes. I've done this number of times. Go. So I feel it's like the same with you with like understanding, what happens at Lilydale and what it's sort of the same thing. I think.
I agree. There are times where, oh goodness, you as a medium, you do have to have a confidence, because you can't go in there going like, I don't know, I have a woman here. Don't get mad at me if I'm wrong about this, but maybe this is your mom. If it's not your mom, I'm really sorry. No, you do have to lead with this. Okay, I have a strong female energy here. Energy feels a little aggressive, feels very confident, feels this feels like a mom. If it's not a mom, this would have been a mother figure to you. And I always say too, I don't even like to say I'm good at what I do. Because I would rather go by my skill, and I would go, I am skilled at what I do, because there is so many times people think that mediumship is, please don't take this the wrong way, they call it like a gift. I don't like that term. I think anyone can do this. I think it is a skill. Like, I don't mean this. I mean, you had to train at Carnegie Mellon. Like, yes, you had that natural ability, as did I with my mediumship, but you have to train. And so yes. I think for me, where it would start to border on cockiness would be, I got this. I don't need to meditate today. I'm just going to go in, and whatever happens, happens. And that's an error. That's where I think it would go into cockiness. But there does have to be a confidence there, because If not, if I do start to feel really crummy about myself again, I will wall up. I will wall up and somebody will get a bum reading. So it's a real delicate balance, I think, daily. Even I gained weight during the pandemic. Even my self-esteem stuff, I have to go, okay, this has nothing to do with this person's reading today. You know what I mean? And there's so many different lines that you have to walk simultaneously during a reading. And then, and if you do really give like a bang on reading, like this idea of the next one, you have to just go, okay, I liken it to reading that of sheet music. And I just go, okay, I read the music exactly as it was written. I played it correctly. Where's the next piece of sheet music? Because if I go in like, oh, I can't go in pretending I wrote that piece of music. I didn't. You know what I mean? That's for me. If we're trying to bridge the gap, cockiness for me would be like, well, I wrote that. I came up with, that's not me. I'm just listening in and taking my confidence, but putting the cocky ego part, not bringing that in.
And I'll piggyback on, I can't go to the theater and just put the costume on and sing. I go to the theater and I stretch and I warm up and I practice between these shows. So, and again, because I know that it's a skill, and if you're not fine tuning it all the time, then it's not going to be there. And I think that would be ego gone bad if I was like, yeah, I can do this. Exactly as you said.
Yeah.
So.
How long do you have to warm up for? If you're going on as Carlotta, let's say.
I have developed a pretty standard routine. And so I know that within about 10 minutes, I know where I am vocally. And I also know if I'm sick or if I'm just enough under the weather that if there's like allergies or something, my cords are a little swollen. There are certainly times where, you have to take the night off because you risk making it worse and losing 3 days of work rather than just taking the one night off. But in terms of like my whole warm-up thing, I would say I like to be in the theater an hour before half hour, even if I'm doing an ensemble thing. So I have the time to stretch, and I have the time to hydrate, and I have the time to vocalize. So I like to vocalize the minute I get there, like, all right, everything's in place. But then, again, very quickly before I actually go on stage. So I'm not just like after an hour, now I'm singing. So.
And then I guess to piggyback off of so many piggybacks we've done, I guess for you, because for me, so for example, somebody asked me before you read a client, do you have to connect? Do you have to start to feel all tingly and just connect with your own before? And the answer is no. I mean, I might do a quick meditation, or I call it sitting in the power, where I know I'm ready to go, but it's not like I have to start to communicate with them early before the client gets there. At the start of the show, it's got to be a stylistic choice. After they announce like who the show is being conducted by and the lights dim, it's got to be stylistic. You hear just like hubbub. Do you know what I'm talking about before the gavel? What is that for? Just to set the tone? Like, what's the artistic intent behind that?
So you realize that you're in a public place, and it's exactly what you said. It sets the tone of that, it's low. It's not excited. It's low. It's kind of scary. You don't know quite what's going on. Hal Prince used to direct that scene. He wanted us to be underwater so that even when, soul, boom, and then the ensemble is like they're underwater. So nobody's going, it's all like very, like there's water between your hands. So I think that Seth is doing it a little differently now, but that it's supposed to absolutely take you into this place of like, what is going on? And are those ghosts? Are those people? And then the lights come up on people, and it's like, oh, where are those people? So it's definitely, and it is a track. It's just a track. Nobody is actually speaking on stage. The mics are not on at that point. Oh. That's a sound effect. I don't know if that's what you'd call it, but.
Yeah, I had wondered that, because I was watching some interview with Gillian Lynn, and there were moments where I'm like, maybe I don't understand this show. Like Gillian Lynn's, talking about the Phantom, where, she's like, he's grabbing the portcullis and Christine brushes past him, and it's probably the first time she's felt an erection. I was like, What is happening? Have you seen this, Patricia, this interview?
Well, I have not, but I think, doesn't everybody think that he and Christine like did it?
I was like, have I been viewing
Yes.
this show wrong the whole time?
Well, I don't know if you have or haven't, but I've even heard that. I mean, that whole scene is just about sex.
Sex. I mean, the lyrics definitely, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be texting you like, Patricia at like midnight. I have a new question. Answer when you can.
When did Christine first feel?
I just sent you like an eggplant emoji next to that emoji that the emoji that we've been using.
And I would send back and then a wiggle line smile.
I would just send you like a monkey and like a music note just to mess with you.
The eggplant, though.
You're never going to think of that moment the same way again. Never. I get like a cease and desist from Phantom Management. They're like, please remove this part of your podcast.
They very well might.
Jillian Lynn comes to me in like a vision. She's like, get rid of that. Well,
she would not. She would love it.
Oh my God, I know the old nipples firing thing that I had read about. And some of these notes are just like crazy, but they make sense. They make sense about, leading from the chest but like the fembots. So
Exactly.
If you teach at Penn State, and I was just watching this really interesting documentary about mediumship, and it was talking about the evolution of what is taught. And I'd love to pick your brain, like from when you studied to how you're teaching now, or what you see students being taught. Is it primarily the same? I mean, or are there like huge differences that you're noticing? And if there are big differences, are you pleased with the improvements, or you're like, I think we got to go back to old school on this?
That's a really, really good question. And it's very interesting because the different schools that I've taught at have definitely had different pedagogies that they prescribe to or ascribe to. I'm not sure what word to use there. And what I love about Penn State is that they absolutely base the voice in a classical training, so that every student, even in the musical theater program, is learning a couple of art songs every year, every semester, and every year. And I can attest to that. Having sung high notes and warming up into even when I was doing Kinky Boots, I was warming up into my head voice to keep it all balanced out. And so luckily Penn State is down with that. There are definitely schools that are like, no, we don't need to do that. And for me, it's just a muscle thing. It's really about the vocal folds are muscles and you got to stretch them. And that is going to provide you'll have a longer career, and you'll have more flexibility to your voice. The difference are the additional styles that we're teaching now, because it's so much going down the road of pop and rock in terms of musical theater on Broadway. But still, Phantom is the one that's been there for 33 years. And so I'm actually really loving that part, because we do expect the students there to have many facets to their voice, that they aren't like, oh, well, I sing soprano and that's it, or I just belt mix and that's like belt mix. Which one? Splitting hairs. It depends on who you're talking to if you're belting or mixing. So, and I try to be very non-binary. I'm like, where do you feel that? Where's that resonating? Good. Remember that. That's what we need to do. Call it whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But so I find that it's great for me personally, because I enjoy teaching the newer music. I enjoy learning the newer music. And I also enjoy that I have the career that I've had, and I can say to my students, I'm still singing. I'm still performing on Broadway.
Yeah.
I haven't lost any of my range. We're going to sing some high notes. And I kid you not, everybody they've done it, we've all discovered, how much how much that has brought to their voices in terms of balancing their voices out. So, so I'm just really very, very, very lucky that I landed where I landed at Penn State, and they do it the way that I've always done it,
Yeah.
and they know what they're doing there, so they keep cranking out the folks. So
I always say good training never really changes too much. Solid training and technique is, I mean, the same thing kind of works with mediumship. Certain things have evolved with mediumship. Like before, it used to be, it used to be believed where when you trained as a medium that your guide was essentially like the old game of telephone. So it was like you and then your guide above you. It was like a linear. And then let's say the spirit that is trying to talk, and they would be like, let's say my guide's name is Anne. The dead person's name is Peter. Peter would be like, hey, Anne, tell Jimmy this. And Anne would be like, bip, 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 bip. Now that's an outmoded school of thought. Now it's kind of like a little triangle, basically, where spirit's here, my guide's here, I'm here. And I say it's like a little Zoom call, so to speak, where if like I need help on something, I can just look at, and I'm looking right now. I'm looking to the right where I normally make my guide hang out. If I need something, I'm like, I don't understand this. My guide will intervene really quick. So it's kind of like a three-way. There's another thing that got outmoded with mediumship was physical mediumship, so really fascinating story. So for example, like ectoplasm, you had all these phony mediums back in the 1800s and 1900s that were doing the tables that would be moving. They actually had kids that used to hang out in the walls of homes during seances, and they would tie apples to strings. And so when they would be like, John, are you there? Give us a sign. The kids would know, and they would run through the walls with the apples. And then sometimes they would, and Lilydale back in the 1800s allowed physical mediumship until Houdini was so obsessed with what was going on with this community that Houdini started going there and like debunking all of these mediums. So in the dead of winter, Houdini's like knocking on doors and no one's answering. They're like, fuck no. Like, we're not letting Houdini in, because he was publicizing which ones he was catching, because, Houdini's a magician. And he's like, if I'm going to call out the fellow magicians here. So now Lilydale, where they don't allow physical mediumship. I've never seen it in the 10 years that I've been doing it. I've never seen physical mediumship. I've never seen transmogrification. Like, remember in Ghost where he's like, "Oh, Tisha, what'd you do to your hair, girl?" And I've never seen that done. I never. If it's autumn sunrise, Orlando. One of my favorite. Where Whoopi's like,
yes,
baby girl, I can't see you. I have never seen that done by a medium. Never. I don't even think it's. I don't even think it's. I mean, if I can, I don't even think it's possible. No.
I've seen it done.
What?
Yeah.
No one's getting in. No one's getting in this body. Get out of here. Where? Did you believe it though? Like,
you know what? They have that particular person. I don't want to say it on camera.
No, of course.
I will certainly talk to you about it afterward. But apparently, it still has a big. Actually, I don't know right now. They had a huge following, and yeah.
Wow. Oh, we'll talk after. But I have.
And I was like the whole time, like, they're acting.
Yeah. I've never seen it done. Never.
Okay.
Never. And again, who knows? Just my personal opinion. I don't. No, I mean that's just me, and I guess as a way of protecting myself. No, like I love what I do as a medium, but like I'm not. No. So I read you 2 months ago.
Something like that.
Yeah, I guess. Can we talk about your reading? Like anything that you feel comfortable talking about that stood out to you, or whatever you want to share.
Well, as I mentioned before, the when you like right away you connected with my mother and her energy and how powerful that is, and you're like you actually use the word, I feel like you channel her a lot, and I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah. Like I'll be walking around my house. She used to say to us when we were really little, and again, she was from Italy, And she would say, if we fell down or she had to help us in some way, she'd say, "Oh my goodness gracious, oh my goodness gracious," and that was, "Oh my goodness gracious."
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious. So to this day, like I'm rubbing my cats and I'm like, "Oh my goodness gracious, you're so pretty." Or the other thing was that she would make a shopping list and she would write the word not napkin, but she'd add a G at the end. So to this day, my sisters and I talk about, we need napkins,
Napkins.
because that's what she would say, napkin. And what else? And she also, which is a very Italian thing, they would put H's in front of like vowels. So she would always talk about happles. You want happles, a apple pie or whatever. So it was very interesting because I was like, wow, like I definitely do that. I walk around my house like talking like my mom, like,
Yeah.
okay, what do we want to have? And so it's interesting that you totally picked up on that. And you said some nice stuff about my son.
Oh, yeah. I remember one thing that stood out to me. Your dad was around barnyard animals, and I asked why. And I guess, and the other thing that came up, and I guess I always like to mention things too if somebody is like a medium in training, because all of our symbols are so different. So, but for me, if I know that somebody is divorced, they will put a line down the middle. So for me, line means either divorce or it means, for some odd reason, physical separation. So when I read somebody, I was like, if I'm talking with a person, like if I'm talking between you and dad and I see the line, that would mean estrangement, which I didn't, but I saw it between the two of them, which would have meant that they were divorced. But I was like, why is he around like sheep and like barn animals? And didn't you say he was rural or something?
Yeah, he grew up and they raised pigs.
That was it.
What, yeah, they raised pigs. And I remember like when we'd go to visit him in Virginia, not him, he would take us from Colorado to Virginia to visit his family because they wouldn't come out to visit us. That's a whole other thing. And it's funny because that's sort of the dynamic I'm living now too, is I take my son to visit my sisters. Anyway, so yeah, he grew up very rurally and in the middle of the Depression. He was born in 1931.
Wow.
And in the South. So it was yeah. He definitely, I remember so clearly. There was the other thing in the reading that I mentioned to you before I think we started recording was you said there was something in my kitchen that was like my mom's or something. There's something in your kitchen that's, your mom is like, she's pointing to it and that's about her. And I was like, no, Jimmy, you're wrong. And then right after the reading, I went into my kitchen and I saw my Better Homes and Gardens red and white cookbook, and I was like,
glaring at you,
staring at me, like wait, it was like, that's what it was doing. So yeah, my dad went through some really, really hard stuff, and you know what? Now that I'm a parent, I get it. I remember one time we were out at a McDonald's, kids, and a homeless person walked up to us asking for money. And my dad flipped out. He screamed at this guy and he was like, "Get away from my family." Now, and at that moment I was like, he's a madman. That was in the 1970s. We weren't that far out of Jim Crow, and he was raising 4 daughters.
Yeah.
And a wife. He was the man. So what I was experiencing, and I do that from him too. When I get afraid, I get mad. I go into fight or flight. So rather than cry, I like, no. And that's what my dad did too. So I just, and I've said this about him before, he put 4 of us through college and he worked for the post office. Wow. And yeah, I mean,
oh my gosh.
And one of my sisters has a master's degree and he did that on a postal worker salary and, bought a house and left us money and, not a ton of money, but so it's just, it's pretty incredible that he was able to do all of that.
You said something so funny about your mom, and it's my nanny. So my mom's mom, who's deceased, I just think she was making shit up. Like, I don't think this was an Italian word. She used to call my brother, who's 10 years younger than me, again, made it up. She would always say cat cucina. So correct me if I'm wrong. This is not a word, right? Because I'm like, well, wait. I'm like, cucina. I'm like, kitchen, like cat kitchen. I was like, what the hell? She didn't know Italian at all. But so the running joke now is we're like, remember when she would call you just like cat kitchen, but she would say it in like an Italian name? Like, I don't think these were real Italian words that she was saying.
I have no idea what that one is.
She said, oh yeah,
We'd
she
have to-
literally said it meant Nani's angel. And I was like, I don't think that's a real, I don't think that's Nani's angel. I think that's cat kitchen.
Kitchen. Like you're a cat in my kitchen driving me crazy.
In the cucina. Yeah, like that's apparently it. So,
That's apparent.
if you were stuck as a ghost in a theater and could only watch the same musical over and over for all of eternity, what show would you pick?
Sweeney Todd. That's my favorite show of all time. In my top 5 are Sweeney Todd, Once on This Island, 1776, believe it or not, is one of my absolute faves.
Any character that you've played that would benefit most from a medium?
Abuela? I don't know. I don't know if Abuela needs a medium. No,
I don't know.
Abuela does need a medium because she's like, her mom taught her how to do everything except for live her dream. Like ay mama, what do you do when your dreams come true? So her mom taught her to pray and have patience and faith, have patience and faith, have patience and faith. She needed to know that that was going to happen. Like, your patience and faith is going to pay off, girl.
Thank you again for being my guest. Be well. I can't wait to support you on October 22nd. And folks at home, I will see you soon as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you again. Bye-bye.